There were three new faces in the Conservative lineup: Rebecca Paul in Reigate, Lincoln Jopp in Spelthorne, and Greg Stafford in Farnham and Borden. And Greg joins us now. Greg, morning to you.
Morning, James.
Well, let's rewind 12 months. What did it mean to you to be elected? This was your first time even standing as a candidate.
Well, it was an absolute honour to be elected. It was the culmination of, I was selected probably 10 months before the general election, but I've been campaigning in the area for at least another 10 months before that. So really it was the culmination of some really hard work, getting to know people, learning the issues. And to be frank, that hasn't changed. It's been a whirlwind, massively challenging, rewarding and deeply humbling, because obviously representing a brand new constituency that spans 2 counties has meant a lot of listening, learning and acting quickly. And to be frank, I've spent the last year really getting stuck into local issues. So, for example, improving SEND provision, pushing for infrastructure through my Borden task force, working on broadband black spots. And in Westminster, what I've really tried to do is make sure that the constituents of Farnham and Borden's voice is being heard at every level of government.
Now, interesting, your neighbour in Godalming and Ash is Sir Jeremy Hunt, and he's raised the performance of Thames Water, special needs and business concerns. And have you mirrored that, or do you think Farnham and Borden is, in some way different?
Well, I think there are a lot of synergies between the 2 seats. And obviously, part of my seat, the Farnham and Hazelmere side of the seat, was obviously under the old South West Surrey under Jeremy. So some of that is the same. But I think actually we have some different challenges, especially around infrastructure. So Borden, I know it's on the Hampshire side, so perhaps not as interesting to you, but it's a new town. When the army left in 2016, lots of development, but unfortunately the infrastructure has not kept pace. And so one of the things I'm really pushing for is to ensure that we do get infrastructure to connect Borden to other places such as Farnham. And I think the synergy and the working together between Farnham and Borden will only increase over the coming years, but we need to make sure it's done in a proper, planned way.
Labour are getting a lot of criticism. The Conservatives had a big defeat, of course, at the election. We can't deny that. And there was a big change here in Surrey. Do you think you're doing enough as a party to make people confident in you again to get back in government in the future?
Oh, absolutely. You are right. The election was very bad for us. And to be frank, I can understand why the electorate were disappointed with things that we'd done. Though I have to say, actually, I think we did some excellent things whilst in power. I think the way we improved education, to be frank, continuing on with some of the changes that New Labour did when they were in power, I think has been absolutely fundamental to improve outcomes. What we're doing now is really making sure that we are a sensible party, working to make sure that we have sensible policies to get back into government. It's really easy, and I think it's really tempting to make grand statements or ridiculous promises without having the policy background and without the fundamental understanding of how this country is changing. And if we don't do that, then the electorate won't respect us. But I think we're taking the time to make sure we've got sensible policies that we can deliver, and that hopefully the people out there, especially in Surrey and Hampshire, will find attractive at the next general election.
Right, and Greg, do you look at all the polls? Because Reform are leading in the polls, Conservatives in 3rd place, and it does seem that voters are much more split across different political parties than perhaps in the past.
Well, politicians always say this, but it is a truism that the only poll that matters is the general election, whenever it is. I think we do have to understand that the electorate is still very unhappy with the main parties, and you've talked about Labour and the Conservatives, but I frankly think the Liberal Democrats as well. If Terry Franklin thinks that Labour has been underwhelming, I would say the Lib Dems have been extraordinarily disappointing. They've spent the last year essentially carping on about in their view, the failings of the last Conservative government, rather than putting forward any kind of real policies of their own. So I can understand why people are at the moment, splitting all sorts of ways with their vote. I think what we've got to do as the Conservative Party is once again demonstrate that we're the party of the economy, sensible decisions, and having a vision to make sure that people understand what this country is going to look like after a 2029 general election, and make sure that we marry up what we're doing with their concerns and their aspirations for the future.
And Locally, what are you up to over the weekend? I've asked all of our MPs who've been on today. It's always a busy time at the weekend for an MP.
Absolutely, especially during the summer months. So I'm going to be at the Hale Carnival. I'm going to be judging some of the floats up there. I'm going to be in Linford for their carnival as well. I'm going to be going to the Bourne show later on. So it's really much a day of events and meeting people. And that's the real key thing I've always tried to do is whatever I do in Westminster, it's got to be based on, what I hear in the constituency. And some of that's through my surgeries and emails and things that come in. But actually going to some of these social events, while they seem jolly, and they are very jolly and I enjoy them, actually it's in these margins where people come up to you and say, oh, Greg, have you heard about this? Or I'm a bit concerned about that. And so that's why it's so important for me to be at these things.
Good talking to you. Appreciate you coming on this morning, and hope they go well, all of those. Weather-wise, maybe drink a brolly is the advice that we've probably pretty much had today. That is the MP for Farnham and Borden, Greg Stafford.